Okay, can I start?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Like I don't remember when we had so many people show up. So I don't know if it's HBC or the presenters we have. It's amazing to see such a big number of you visiting us today. So it's the same drill, same kind of concept we do always, but we added a couple more presenters. So we do have a feature presentation, but it's going to be lightning talks format as we promised, and we're going to target this group in 2019 to help startups more often. So you will hear soon. How we came to be, like Serverless Toronto user group started out of my frustration after 30 years in IT, and I just wanted to do something more meaningful. And not to go to make the long story, you can see in the first Serverless Meetup the slides about what I saw in IT at the time. And this declaration exactly a year ago that we're going to start with the group. It took us a couple of months to start getting organized. Most of the time we meet at My Planet, but from time to time we have guests like we were guests at Ecobee and now here at HBC. There is an interesting thing happening in serverless. Like when I fell in love with it, it was just a new idea, and it was something like a butterfly. Like it was uncertain. There was uncertainty. What's going to happen with it? Like, is it going to pick up or not? But nowadays, it's becoming the mainstream force in the cloud computing. And like with everything, when it becomes popular, there are all kinds of movements and all kinds of uses and abuses of the technology. So there is interesting trend happening now that it's being used not the way the original creators anticipate, planned for it, and not just for different use cases, but also like serverless consists of two parts: consists of functions as a service and consists of backend as a service. So what's happening? Like people, developers, they like to code, so they would code more than needed because there are backend services you can invoke. So like traditionally, there is this saying: if all you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. And that's exactly what's happening with serverless technology these days. So why is it different like than other technologies we had in the past? Because it's not only about technology, it's about the mindset change. There are so many backend services that one can use, and it takes kind of understanding and knowledge of what's out there, and basically not to write everything from scratch. So Paul Johnson had described this well in last year about that it's more about mindset than about functions as a service. The problem became so severe that now there is a new term being coined, Serviceful serverless, which really indicates that we try to use functions only as a glue between APIs that exist in the back end, because the less code we write, there's less complexity, and then it's easier to maintain, less technical debt. And that term was coined by Joe Emerson, and he's listing the different APIs and vendors that offer those APIs. We covered everything on the last meeting, thanks to Peter Dyer. And this meetup, we continue with the Cloudinary. There is also Netlify, a company that's going to be featured talk next month. But so this is the theme of the talks. Cloudinary is the main presenter. They're going to be talking about backend as a service. How they call it? They don't call them digital access manager, but dynamic access manager. Eric will explain. And then after that, we're going to have Danny from HBC talking about APIs. Things the big companies that go through in order to go to cloud native. More API related talk, how they're using the AliPay and WeChatPay. And then after that, we'll have my boss Alan from Monica talking about how startups and consultants can benefit from AWS. So he's one of the most knowledgeable people in the AWS space, so we can really ask him anything. And then after that, we're going to end up last talk, will be Bhavana from Netlify. That's another company offering backend service. So the theme continues. So we started Serviceful serverless last time. Are we going to continue now? Next time, Netlify will be a feature presentation, and I'm trying to get Algolian to talk to us next. And whoever is working with backend service, I need Lightning Talk presenter. So that's where we are. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Melissa from HBC, and maybe you can say a few words about this company.
Thanks, Daniel. So don't want to take up too much of your time, but this is our space at HBC. I'm one of the tech recruiters that in New York. We have offices in New York, Toronto, India, distribution centers. We have over 66,000 employees, and we're all over the world. So just wanted to let you guys know that we do have a Toronto meetup that happens about every quarter. So if you want to get involved, definitely join. And we also have the tech.hbc.com website. Check it out. We have awesome teams here, really cool technologies that we're doing. So if you are interested in exploring what HBC is about and maybe an opportunity, definitely let me know. And enjoy the night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And this is the first time we have alcohol service.
Yeah.
This is something special. Thank you. So you will get into tickets. If somebody is missing a ticket, please raise your hand. We're going to do draw at the end. And now it's your opportunity to shine, to present why you're here, what's your name, and which your company.
Okay, this is totally unannounced. At least there's a miscommunication, so I won't take too much time. My name is Ali, and I was here actually a couple of meetings ago. But what I'd like to talk to everyone in the room about is web performance. I run the Toronto Web Performance Group meetup. It's been going on for like 4 or 5 years. I actually have to meet up next week. But most importantly is I've actually set up a one-day, one-track web performance conference in conjunction with FITC. So we are actually, for the first time, going to have a dedicated one-day event talking about web performance, mostly on the front end. So if you deal with the front end or people on your team that deal with it, this is somewhere they might want to be and attend. And specifically because if you've ever heard of, say, web page test, we're going to have the author of web page test with us. We are actually going to have Harry Roberts coming in from the UK. We're going to talk about PWAs and everything, maybe Jamstack, in fact. We're going to have Gatsby in the building, and actually Bhavana is going to be there as well, representing Netlify. Now, I'm going to post the 20% discount code for the serverless audience into the meetup group Slack, whatever page. So if you're interested, definitely come check us out. If you have any questions, come see me. I'll be here the whole time. And it has to do especially with asset management. And I'm happy that I'm here at HBC because we talk about retail all the time and how to make the retail experience online as best as possible. Thank you very much.
Okay, no, Peter, you have to pick your group now. I said 10 seconds.
I'm Peter. I build applications using serverless architecture.
There is more to that. Go check out last talk we had. Peter was a guest, and he's going to be talking about AliPay soon again.
Hey, I'm the director of solution architecture. I did not pay Daniel to go and say all the things about me. I'm a Matt. I'm a fresh graduate that was just interested in the topic, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Damien. I'm a junior software developer, and I'm exploring serverless. Hi, I'm Simon. I'm going to give you a
I'm Mark, tech sales.
Hi, I'm Jay. I'm working as a senior tech economist there from Squashbank.
Hi, my name's Arsene. I'm teacher and co-founder of Settles. We are a SaaS collaboration platform, financial advisors and their clients to better work together. And we're always looking for engineers, serverless engineer, cloud engineer, and staff developers to join our teams. We're looking at a few jobs from here, and if you want to talk, I'll be here on that.
So I'm Derek. I'm a fresh graduate here to Unofficial.
Hi, I'm Sri. I'm a developer at WeChatPay. Hi, I'm Matt. I'm a developer. The company I work at uses a lot of Google Cloud stuff, so I'm interested in learning more about serverless for my stuff at work, and personal projects and stuff.
Hi, I'm Greg. I am an IT infrastructure engineer.
That's Jack here. I'm a system engineer. So
Hi, my name is Anders. I'm with Account HQ, and we're building the next generation CRM platform, and we're currently looking for backend / full stack developers.
Born a dev manager at Sony Inc. in Mississauga, dev manager, and trying to understand what serverless is all about.
hello, I'm Ion. SRE and DevOps at the Serviceful.
Hello, this is Narendra. I work at the Cloud and Internet Sector. So, and almost on the last year, joining these serverless meetup. Thank you.
My name is Frank. I'm a VoIP engineer. I'm very interested in the cloud technology and thinking to bring the VoIP technology in the cloud. Thank you.
David, enterprise infrastructure.
I'm Tobias. I look after the platform at RBC.
Hi guys, I'm John. I am a co-organizer of this group with Daniel, Jane, and Frank. I'm a freelance architect and developer, and I'm a big fan of event-driven design and enterprise message bus type architectures. And I love serverless because it makes that technology sound.
Hi, my name is Ivan. I'm co-founder of Sherpa, and at Sherpa we make sure that nobody gets on an airplane without a visa or with an incorrect visa, and we'll use a lot of serverless stuff for just to make sure that our technology runs. And we're actually looking for a couple developers, full stack and backend. So if you're interested, talk to me.
Okay, you'll have to present soon.
Hi, my name is Ignacio. I'm a software developer and freelance.
Hi, my name is Iran, technical architect at Gen3. I love meetups, I love the community, because of that I'm here.
Yeah, I'm Cam, and I work at LogoJoy, and we do some serverless stuff and some not serverless stuff.
Hi, my name is Jacob. I'm working for Gen3, and I'm a developer interested in performance and FWA and Netlify.
I'm Mimtiaz. I work for HBC. I'm a senior tech analyst in the payments team.
Hi, my name is Sebastian. I'm a payment specialist, and it's nice to be here and meet a lot of interesting people. Hi, I'm Danny. I work with HBC as a systems architect. I'll be speaking a little later on today about QR and mobile payments.
Hi guys, I'm Praveen. I have a retail background and right now working with podcasts and CPC, organizational strategy and product sourcing.
I'm Marvin Mack, one of the point of sale managers at HBC.
Hi, I'm Bhavana. It's been 3 weeks since I came to Toronto. I'm still getting used to the cold. But I work with Netlify, so I'm excited to meet all of you and then talk to some of you after the meetup.
I'm Mark. I'm a software architect at Fisher Gold.
Hi, I'm Hassan, and I'm a technical product lead at Affinity, and we are developing a self-service analytics tool.
Hi, my name is
Definitely, technical consulting, capital market things.
I'm just Sal. I'm a data analyst, and I want to make sure that all my projects are scalable because we're going worldwide, so we're expanding.
Hi, I'm Boom. I'm almost graduate, former systems engineer, and I've been around with AWS a lot, and I like to learn a lot about serverless architecture.
Hi, I'm Wayne. I'm a software developer. part in freelancer big data.
Hi, I'm Kapan. I'm a student and work part-time as a web developer at Unexplore. And I'm here to learn about serverless and how it is used in enterprise systems.
Hi, this is Monson and I'm a tech sales.
Jimmy, DevOps lead, managing workloads in Amazon storage, moving to cloud, moving to storage.
Hi, this is Shaban from
Hi, Neil. I'm Neil. I'm here because I love Netlify and Cloudinary.
Nice.
I'm Kagaya, I'm systems engineer at
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm a software developer with Bhavana, a fintech company. So I jumped into serverless and I'm looking to accelerate that.
I'm Fahim. I was formerly a physician, now I'm an infrastructure architect for the Untitled Service. I'm surprised no one said happy birthday. The reason I'm here is because this is, in my opinion, one of the best meetups in Toronto. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I wish I started here first. I was so nervous when everybody showed up. I should do it again. Okay, so, Eric, the stage is yours.
All right. Sounds good. So this is just in time because I don't have any Wi-Fi and I have a risky life of going live with my demo. But we're all good. I'm connected to my phone. So, hi everyone. My name is Eric Courville. I'm the Director of Business Development at Cloudinary. My background, I think actually I was part of the movement that we're serverless with Peter, actually, a company called Bladespin. We're one of the very pioneer in moving physical servers into the cloud with VMware and Microsoft in the early days. So I was the very first brave salesperson joining the company when the company had 6 months of cash flow left. And after that, I worked with in digital asset management, a company called North Plains, also Toronto-based. I work in enterprise search, Quebec-based company called Prevail. And I was just before joining Cloudinary, I was in a company called Avid Technology. So if you don't know Avid, Boston-based company, they do all the editings of big blockbusters movies. And I recently joined Cloudinary. And what's interesting is when you look at my background, cloud with Bladespin, media management with Avid, digital asset management with North Plains, and with enterprise search. In all cases, the big challenge was actually about having quick deployment of solution that gives immediate gratification, immediate ROI. And I couldn't find it. Nothing against North Plains, but you know, it's $1 million, it's a year of deployment, and before you see ROI, it's 2 to 3 years, and probably the staff that originated the project is no longer in place. So what attracted me by Cloudinary when I was looking at my next challenge is the fact that it is entirely, you sign up for an account, it's actually a free account. You have immediate access to the platform, all functionality, and you don't know what's in the back end. You have, the power you need, the infrastructure you need. You can connect. It's totally API based, and that's why I joined. I joined the company last October. And I'm managing the partnerships for the Americas. And I am not a technical person. So, but I live in Oakville, so they thought it was convenient for me to be here. But so I brought some smarts with me, which is why Tamara, my co-worker, is joining us through Zoom remotely from LA. And she's the right person. So if there is technical questions, she'll be able to answer it. And I mentioned about living in a dangerous place. So I have a few slides, and most of my presentation is actually live demo. So for a non-techie going through my phone, bear with me. We'll see how it goes. So let's get this started. So first of all, how many people know about Cloudinary? You've heard of it? Okay, a few people. So we're going through ahead of the background. So the company is actually started in Israel. I didn't know much about Israel until last October when I actually went on site. Beautiful place, beautiful people, very, very smart people. And the company started in 2011, so fairly young, by three developers who were doing consulting work. They met in the army initially, and then they were doing consulting work with their company. And they realized every company that they were going through, they were going through the same challenges with regards to their image manipulation, image optimization. So they started to create a platform that was designed to be by developer for developers. So very API, very open. It's a platform. It's not a solution. And they then made the access to the software as a free copy. So I mentioned 2011. 8 years later, today, we actually have over 400,000 people, developers using the platform actively today. We have more than 25 billion assets into management, which is actually more than Twitter and Facebook combined. Just to give you an idea, we're one of the top AWS partners in terms of content that we have. We are very rapidly gaining enterprise customers, very, very high-end companies like Adidas, Nike, in retail space. And we have a lot of user-generated content type company. So think of Uber, Dash, DoorDash, company like that, where they rely on, they rely on images and video they don't control. So they need to have some sort of control. So that's a big market for us. We do a lot in news. So if you have anything that's near life, so if you're a daily post or a daily news type, if you're actually CBC is actually one of our customers. The beauty of Cloudinary is you can actually prepare your assets, video and images. We'll look at it without actually having the assets. So you can have, you can prepare your website, you can prepare your app, and then when the asset comes in, all the layers, breaking news, title, everything is already ready when the image comes in. So you're saving in time, you're saving in space, you're saving in velocity. So it's a big market for us. And we also have entertainment, which is a great market as well. We're not into managing and editing long-form video, 2-hour 4K video, but we are about, digital experience. So a lot of the custom, actually, I'll share an example of what we've been doing, which is I think quite cool. We have worked last December with a digital agency from New York that has a project with T-Mobile, equivalent of Dell Canada here. And the project was that if you're in Times Square on New Year's Eve, you can actually take a selfie of yourself, text it to a T-Mobile number. So the area was grabbing that image, which is a selfie. We don't know what size, we don't know which format. We were then validating if it's appropriate for public consumption. Then we were right-sizing the images, making sure it's the right format, optimizing the quality of the image. Then we were actually adding layers. Happy New Year's, welcome to New York. And then we were creating a mosaic of everyone that had that picture. And we were actually posting it on one of the big screens in Times Square. All of this in 20 seconds. Right? So that's the power of being able to leverage back-end as a software and serverless infrastructure. Questions, comments? All good? So, so I've seen some of the posts that you guys have put, which actually triggered the session today, which is really about having a collection of video, which was a use case here, and I need to apply one of them. How do we do that in a very easy way? So this demonstration of how we do it at Cloudinary would take about 20 seconds. So it would have been a very short talk. So I thought I would actually expand the request here and go to what I believe is quite interesting about Cloudinary is the combination of digital asset management, so managing all those video and images, and making them accessible to websites while protecting the quality and the the agility and the download speed, the SEO, and all the good stuff that as web developers you guys are trying to achieve. Next slide. So in search, this is the platform that we have built. So we started here in this automatic optimization and manipulation. This is where the company started initially. And then we're going to extend both ways. So the platform starts with obviously uploading your assets. So we have an upload widget that you can actually include in your own website. So you all know about Michaels, the stores that have crafting. So if you go to michaels.com, there's actually a frame division that they have. If you purchase a frame, you can actually use the widget, upload one of your pictures or the picture you actually want to have in the frame, and then we actually can overlay it over all frames, different frames, so you can see actually what your picture will look like before purchasing the frame. So that upload widget is actually part of the experience that we have with Michaels. But we have lots of ways to actually gather your images and website and actually use the widget in the live demo. Storage. So we're primarily Amazon S3, I mentioned it earlier. But for some customers, they still want to use other platforms. So we are working with Google, starting to work with Microsoft, but we're 99% Amazon for technical reason and availability reason. The reason why we initially actually started with Google is that we have Walmart. Actually, we have Walmart as a customer, and obviously they didn't want to work with Amazon, one of their biggest competitors. But then obviously we have all the good stuff. You guys know that better than I do in terms of storage, backend, revision. So nothing sexy there, but we have all that. It's sexy for some, not for us. And then we're starting to get interesting. So then we get into the administration of those assets. So we upload them, we store them. The administration is all about, and this is where we actually introduce digital asset management. And I'll talk to that. I have a slide just on that. But the fact that we're actually controlling the upload and the distribution really makes them at the center and not at the beginning of the workflow. The DAM that we have is extremely modern. So we're using a lot of services for multiple cloud providers, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Azure, in terms of being able to capture automatically metadata. So for those of you who are into DAM, the main thing that makes DAM down is the fact that you manually, in the past, you have to manually, tag all your images and manage your metadata and having metadata schema. So we remove all of that. You can still do it, but we actually make it automatically, and assuming that my Wi-Fi works, we'll see it live. And then we have some very interesting search that leverage that metadata that we've captured. So I'll give you an example. So when you upload your images, you can already use some of those services to capture all sorts of metadata that will be part of the image moving forward. So with the search we have, we can actually do very fancy search. Like, I'd like to have all the images and video, or just images, that has 4 adults, 2 children, 2 kids, where the mood is fairly happy. There's a boat in the image, and the predominant color is orange because I want to have a sunset. And we'll have just the video or just the images that have that. So this is just an example where you can really push the search. So if you are a marketer, you need to have a digital campaign. You need to find images and resources really quickly. You get that. And then once you have your assets, you search them, then the magic happens. This is really where Cloudinary is completely different than anything else out there. Is the ability for us to do all sorts of optimization of the image, whether it's size, whether it's the cropping, format, and we do that automatically, or you can define, the parameters you want. But we do that, and we do manipulation. So the two things kind of go together. And so manipulation would be the overlay. So this is the use case initially of how do I add a watermark to a video. though it goes way further than that. So a lot of stuff you can do with Photoshop illustrators, you can actually do with Cloudinary. But the beauty is you can actually do it, as I mentioned, without the assets to start with. And you can actually do it live in the URL. So I'll get back to that in a second. So all the different effects you can have. And then we also take care of the delivery. So we're fully integrated. We use CDN in the back end. We're working mostly with FMI, supporting fast leaks out front, and the need of the above and others. And we have some CDN from the Japanese market, which is very specific to them, which allows us to basically share always the best assets to where it's going to be delivered. So far, so good. So yeah, I'll get that in a second. I just need to get some water. All right. So I mentioned to you that I joined Cloudinary for one specific reason, and that slide actually illustrates that. So in traditional DAM, so every other digital asset management that I've been in the past, it's mostly about storing, putting your metadata manually, doing your collaboration. So meaning this asset we have access to, we can share it with this group, with our digital agencies. So it's all about controlling final assets mostly. Then you need to reuse one of those assets. What do you want to do? You then check out that assets. You give it to your graphic designer, who's going to use Adobe products, and it's going to do his magic to the asset, and it's going to be review and approval from the legal team that needs to approve it, and then eventually it's going to go back to them. So obviously a long process, expensive process, but more importantly, every time you put back the assets in the DAM, you actually increase your storage. So every single manipulation, you double the space essentially. So you just end up with a huge amount of space. The beauty with Cloudinary is this is all one continuum, which is why we call it dynamic digital asset management. There's really a dynamic aspect. So while we always want to have one asset of your image and video, best possible quality you can get. And from there, we can have all the different iterations of it. So we can, again, through URL, and I'll show you through the UI as well, you can do all sort of transformation, all sort of manipulation, and you can even push it to publishing all in one stream, live, without having to depend on other people and without having to duplicate your image. We do keep track of all the iteration and all the transformation you've done. We'll show that, but you actually don't create a new assets. So this is why you see some of the names there. The last one being, I'm living a risky life here because I put Nintendo there. That's a win we actually have this week. After 2 years of work, and they did an extensive search in terms of who's the best damn suppliers out there. 600 users initially was going to use that damn Nintendo. And of all the players out there, they choose us mostly because of that dynamic aspect. This is just one example of that. Really quickly, and then we'll get to the live demo. So I mentioned it's a platform from developer to developers. So lots of SDK, lots of API, lots of ways to actually connect the backend to pretty much whatever you want. But we do have some that's been next slide that we keep growing the ecosystem of partners that we have integrated with. So you can see some of the key ones. So Zapier obviously comes really, really frequently with whatever workflow you're looking at. Some of the metadata tagging I mentioned are in here. We do actually quite a bit of e-commerce, supporting Magento, Kineo, Salesforce. Stay tuned about Salesforce. We have some good stuff coming up. And then CMSs, WordPress is the latest one that just came in. And obviously we're connecting to the Dropbox at this point as well. So. All right, so let's get to, and obviously Probably one of the best websites I've seen at Cloudinary. Again, from developer to developer, I'll repeat it over and over. Documentation is insane. So if you don't find it there, there's a problem. It's again, there's a free offering, so you can actually all go tonight, get your free offering, and it's a self-serve, so you can actually do quite a bit with the free offering. And then our documentation is actually quite good. Very, very actually documented about pretty much anything you do with the platform. All right.
So I stopped sharing. You can log in.
So yeah, so you just need to share.
Do you want me to share? You share. So while he's preparing, so you see this session is a little bit different than the last meetups we had. Before it was coding, lambdas, examples. Now we want you to be aware of the auxiliary services you can use rather than diving into new features. One of the slides that I quickly ran through at the beginning, like it is a cool thing. Like there's lambda layers we just announced. Guy was coding a FFmpeg layer for transcoding images, and then without even knowing this exists. So it's a different perspective. It's education, what you can get out of the product. The next presentation is similar.
So can you guys hear me like this?
No.
I almost ate. You'll be my mic holder.
But recording is for this mic.
Yeah.
So
But I put the crowd.
okay.
And I need my two hands.
Okay. You unmute yourself, and I'll mute me. Or you can talk here.
Yeah, that's just for camera, but for the crowd, I just need to do that. So if you can share that screen to the other one, just move the.
Hang on a second.
You need to press escape to remove the full screen, and then take that whole thing. Yeah, perfect. All right, so you guys can see that. Not the best resolution, unfortunately. But and can you reduce the so we don't see the video? Yeah, just do that minimize. Perfect, awesome. All right, we're hosted by Hudson Bay, so I thought I would start there. So what I did here is I take the Bay website, this is the nerd site, and I've actually put it into so what I did here is I actually put in a tool we have. It's called a website speed test that basically analyzes picture by picture every video, a specific website, and it gives us an analysis of the quality of that website purely from an optimization perspective. So that's an internal tool powered by Cloudinary. I'm happy to share on whatever video we have the link. You guys have access to it and play with it, see what it looks like. But here it is, and I didn't know what to expect, so I just put the Bay there. And as you can see, the main site, thebay.com, has 50 images that was analyzed for about a minute to do the analysis. And what you can see is there, the total weight of those images are 3.8 megabytes. So when you're on your crappy cell phone with a crappy network, which would be this room maybe, that's what you have to download. So it impacts obviously the time to get access to the content of the website. So with Cloudinary, with a simple command, you can actually reduce those and compress it to 17.5% of its original size, just like that, without losing any of the quality. And it goes further. You can see every of the image here have been analyzed each one by one. So you can see that this image here can actually be compressed to 12.1. The rating is D. You can see here is Y, and you can see that the format of the compression is F, which is really not good. But the fit, color, everything else seems to be not too bad. There's some metadata. But what's interesting is that it actually was rated as F because it's a PNG. So PNG, yes, it focuses on all the browsers, but the best size you can have, or the best compression, would be 30% of its original size. Where if you would do a dynamic optimization, you can actually have WebP, which will add in 12.1 optimization or compression rate, and then if you would go to JPEG, the same thing. So you kind of have the summary here at the top. All right, so that's pretty cool. And this is where the magic comes from. So if I go back to the bay, and if I look back at that image here, and I just look at the image information, right? So this is where we have our image. Interestingly enough, it's actually powered by Scene 7. Interesting. So if I click that link and I get to the main image, so this is the main image, and again, we've seen the information. If I take that and I copy and I bring it to our Cloudinary. So this is the Cloudinary platform UI that you can all get when you have, and see that media library here. So if we go in there, I actually created a serverless Toronto folder. I can actually just go here, and I can go to my upload, and this is the upload widget. So multiple ways I can upload my files, website, Google image. We'll actually do a test next. But I can just take that same image, put it back here. And now you're going to see that image now showing up in my Cloudinary platform. So now that I have it here, I actually have a link to that image. Or I can actually just click to it. Sorry. And I'm going to use this to show you a couple of things before we get to the optimization compared to the original side. So when I click on it, you can see here that I have some basic tagging on my image. I can add some metadata that I would want to. So that's more of the traditional way of doing DAM. But then I have this analysis here. So we're using, a bunch of services. So let's use Amazon here, and let's actually run an analysis on that website. So here suddenly it gives us a lot of the tagging that represents that image. So we have person, furniture, room, and door, et cetera, and you'll see that depending on the confidence level, that number is actually changing. So I'm going, to 45%. I still have photography. Okay, I'm good with that. I can actually select all those tags, and I can maybe remove photography. That's not very useful for me. And I can actually have all of these now as part of the tagging. So when I go back to my assets, now all of those are now accessible through search immediately. I didn't have to enter anything. That's pretty cool. I can then look at, there's one face detected. You know what? I see two faces here, so maybe I need to fix it. So I can actually go in here, and I can actually select, the other faces, and I can actually say, get rid of all the stuff here. I can say save coordinates. So if I go back to my original picture, I now have two faces detected. I can analyze if there's a celebrity. Obviously, there's none in this image, but if you would have celebrity, you can know. So I need to accelerate here. We can spend 2 hours on this, but just to give you, again, some of the power of the platform. So now let's do optimization. So I mentioned to you that now that this image is actually into Cloudinary, if I bring it, you'll see that this image now is actually powered by Cloudinary. So if I look at this image, this is my original image. It is still my PNG file at 587. Here's some of the magic. So I can easily just go in here. This is where I need my two hands. I can go in here and basically just go with this. So give me a F photo. Give me a format automatic, and just by doing that, if I look at my image now, you'll see that it's now a WebP at 68. I haven't done anything, right? And it decided to be a WebP because I'm actually using Chrome. If I would actually use Safari or Firefox, I would probably have a different answer. So if you would put that link to your website, and that thing can actually be customized, you can change the name if you want for SEO, but you would always get an optimal performance, and your eBay, the Bay website, would actually be optimized in terms of upload time. Cool stuff. So let's now go back to our console, right? So that's part of the very basic, but part of the optimization. Now what I'm going to go is I'm going to go back to my library. I'm going to go back to my server. I'm going to use the opportunity to upload a new image, and I'm going to use image search this time, and I'm going to do Toronto CN. Let's see if that comes up. So I've got a couple of images. I'll choose this one. I'll choose this one here, and I'm going to upload them. Then I have them in Cloudinary. And then from there, I can actually come in here, and I'll show you the same way of transforming, but without the code, without the URL. So we have a UI here where you can start, cropping your assets. You can change the format. I want to have it as a WebP, and I want to have even special effects on it. I want to have an artistic filter. So all the stuff you can do, and what's interesting is everything you do here, it actually creates at the bottom here a URL, depending on which platform. If you're on PHP, whatever, so you can have and you can click and you have access to that URL. But you can actually go further. So you can actually come here and basically say, hey, I actually have in my library a Cloudinary logo, so I want to overlay a Cloudinary logo. So let's just do that. And now I have my Cloudinary logo, right? And again, it's all part of the URL here. But obviously, I don't want it in the center here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask to put it in the northeast side of the picture. I'm now putting it at the east side. It's a little big, actually. So what if I make it 400 wide? And if I do that, I'm actually getting bigger.
And this is all available to API as well.
Or actually, it's do it. Okay, here you go. And to Daniel's point, so now that I have this, I can actually click that link. I have that same image here, and I can say, you know what, that image, instead of being the size it is, I would like to have it as a width of 500. So I can just go like this, refresh it, and now it resizes my picture. So lots of stuff you can do through the UI or through the URL. And so if I go back to my library here, what's interesting here, if I go back to my serverless, if I go to transformation, it actually keeps tracks of every single transformation I've done with those assets. So I can actually save those and give a name. So I've done one. I've created one that's called Serverless Watermark. So if I look at a sample, it actually puts a watermark of Serverless on top of an image. So if I go back to this one here, I can also say, hey, add to presets. What it does is when I go to my media library, I can take any picture. So we've downloaded a couple of pictures of the CN Tower. So let's use this one, actually. We just downloaded it. And now in the presets, I have the serverless preset that's been done. So if you have a lot of pictures, you can actually give it a name. It's complex, and then you have, and then even there, you can still change it. You can say that, hey, you know what? The logo is maybe too large. I'm looking at the can you change that? Let's say I want to change it to 400. Would be better if I would know how to type. I know that well, so I'm going to stop here. There you go. And now I change the format. One last thing, really quickly. So I'll go back to my library. So everything you've seen with images, we can actually do it with video. I can come in here, I can go into my overlay, and I can say overlay my serverless logo, and refresh, and now I have my serverless logo, and I want to have it much smaller, so I change it here, refresh, much smaller, and I can change the gravity. Obviously, I want to put it northeast. Okay. So now if I take that image, and I open it full scale, you now have your video with your servlets. All right, so that's all I have. Again, we can spend lots of time, but wanted to give you kind of a flavor real time. I'm glad my phone connection worked, but I'm here for the rest of the evening if you have any questions. And as I mentioned, Tamara, my partner, is on the line, so if there is any technical questions, she's happy to answer any of this.
If you have anything, we have not much time, maybe 3 questions. Okay. You repeat the question. Can you show the question? You repeat the question.
In terms of enterprise scalability, what are the mechanisms on the platform to process
Yeah, there's a whole set of API. There's multiple ways of doing it. There's multiple batch upload one time, or there's rule-based upload. So you can say, hey, any file that actually shows up in this folder could be an external folder. Grab it, bring in Cloudinary, add a watermark to it, or doing transformation. So you can do conditional upload, conditional. And this way, honestly, is to, because there's about 1,000 use cases, but if I'd be happy to give you my card and we can talk about it. So again, we have Taboola, Nike, Adidas using a platform. You can just imagine how Shutterstock is using it for all their portfolio. Other questions?
Okay. One more.
All right. Either I was really clear or really bad.
So, oh, thank you for presenting. It's really about awareness, what APIs you can use, and you will see from the next presenter, like we touched that topic on the earlier meetups. It's not easy just to deploy. You go to the serverless. You have to first go cloud native, and then even if your company is not going cloud, there are so many things, optimizations you can do. So HPC is going through that process, and this is just like a talk about the switch from traditional payment APIs to the real APIs that in the cloud that can benefit from the backends as a service in their journey transforming to cloud. So then come here. And I will make sure that your slides up. Introduce yourself while I'm.
Hi everyone, good evening. I'm Elisha. I'm a systems architect with HPC. I work a lot on the payment side of things, so I'd like to walk everyone through what a payments model traditionally looks like and some of the exciting things we're working on in HPC tech on some new up-and-coming payment models as well as tying to serverless.
Here.
Yeah, so I'm going to start off by going over an overview of traditional payment models that we have today in the field, from small to medium-sized businesses to large businesses to enterprise-sized clients. And once we cover that, we have a foundation and a good understanding of traditional payments, I'd like to dive into QR payments or mobile payments and how it's emerging in the market. So a traditional small to medium-sized business would typically use a direct-to-bank model. What that basically means is you'd have a small merchant, maybe a mom-and-pop shop. They'd have a standalone PIN pad provided by a bank, let's say TD, for example, and it would just go direct to their host, and they would be the ones processing all their tender types. Another comparable example could be like a Square model, where you would have a terminal from Square or a reader from Square, and that would go to Square's host, and they would process all your transactions. So a very limited endpoint that you can reach because you're really tied to that one processor, but it's a model that works for small businesses. So for larger businesses, we're looking at something where they outgrow the typical standalone terminal methodology, and they're looking for something bigger where they can kind of expand and have more endpoints and be a little bit more open with their their tender types they accept. So if they want to have gift cards go to a certain provider, have debit go to a certain provider, credit to individual banks or to one bank, that can all be achieved using the following payment model. This payment model will consist of a payment gateway that the merchant would point their terminals to or their point of sale application to. And that payment gateway would then route individual transactions based on their banking relationships that they have in place. And moving on to a more enterprise or tier one model, this is something that gets a little bit more complex. So when you get a larger scale, you tend to introduce more complexity. So I'd like to just walk everyone through what a typical payment will look like in an enterprise type of environment. So starting with the point of sale, I'll send a request to the middleware being the application that handles the payment side of things, point of sale being more of the cash register logic in this case. So a customer comes in, would like to purchase an item for $100. POS would tell the middleware, I'd like to do a purchase for $100. Middleware would then communicate with the payment device or the PIN pad and say, capture the card details from the customer for the sale for $100. Customer would swipe, insert, tap, and their encrypted data would come back to the middleware with their card information. Middleware would then take that information and build a payment request message and send it out to a payment gateway. This could be a gateway that resides at corporate data centers. This could be a gateway that resides in the cloud. From that gateway, it would then determine what store it came from, what type of card tender it is, and based on that information, it'll know where it needs to route it. So route it to the appropriate bank. That bank will take that payment request and they would be able to decrypt the encrypted account number that was captured on swipe, go through the approval process of that transaction, and send the approval process with a token and encrypted PAN back down to the middleware, where the point of sale would receive the response, log the response, middleware would log the response as well if need be, and basically completes the payment cycle in an enterprise solution. So as you can see, it's a lot of moving pieces when compared to an SMB type of payment environment. So with a model like this, which is used in numerous tier ones or enterprise solutions, there's a lot of complexity, like I mentioned. But just to dive into a bit of the details that we have to go through in order to complete a payment cycle like this, just want to touch on some of the messaging that's done in place. So starting on the left side, those are all the fields that we need to account for in a payment request message, followed by the data elements that we receive back in a response. And this is just occurring at the store side before it even reaches our payment gateways. From the gateway level, we take that comma delimited store message, and now we're converting it to a bank-specific format. So as you can see, now we're taking those comma delimited fields, converting them based on specifications we have with the various banks, and figuring out which field needs to go where in what format and send it out in the correct format to the host. Once we get that response back, we get a response message, which is outlined on the right. So it's a lot of data, it's a lot of moving parts, a lot of information to capture, and this is all for one transaction. So just painting the picture for you to see what a typical enterprise type of payment would traditionally consist of. So now if we compare something like that with an AliPay API, for example, you can see how a lot of the complexity has been removed from the equation when it comes to the request message or the response message. So it's a simple JSON message that's delimited. Very few data elements are required, and a lot of the payment logic is then moved over to the host that's processing. In this case, it's AliPay. Which brings us into the actual QR payments flow. So QR payments is something new and exciting that's really been coming up for the last few years, and something that we even use today in our stores and select stores with HPC and SaaS. So to give you a better understanding, I just wanted to show a quick video of how the payment models are used today. So if you can see, the example comes in with open their app and the QR code store, enter the amount, confirm, and approve. And the host will register after that happens. Another model is using or using their and it would work alongside the customer's mobile device. Or terminal. That's tricky. The customer support code. The customer would be prompted to confirm the department and approve. That's all number. And there's also a message for querying the payment to ensure that the payment in fact did go through. So very simple logic, very easy to follow. Couple clicks and you're done. And that's something that we're seeing more and more of coming out of the East and following the tourists that are shopping the stores today. And just to go over some facts and figures, this isn't something that's just a fad or something popular for the last few weeks or anything. There's proven numbers behind this. The expansion is growing ever more. And just to put into comparison's sake, each individual brand of QR payment processing from the East, which would be AliPay and WeChatPay, for example, back in 2017, they were doing more volume in a month than PayPal was doing in a year. So kind of gives you an example of how quickly the growth is for these payment models. Now, from the back end of things, it's a very simple flow as well. So I'll walk you through what a typical transaction would look like on a mobile QR code terminal. All the data is sent via HTTPS to the gateway, which would be an AliPay or a WeChatPay gateway. The data would go through a set of load balancers just to ensure it gets to the correct, the most efficient path and the most efficient way of routing that transaction, just to alleviate any pain points when trying to reach the host. And the host would receive the transaction at that point, and there's unique parameters to identify that merchant, that sale in that transaction cycle. So that's basically what's happening on the back end of things. On the front end of things, the customer would simply click on their mobile device, scan to pay. They'd scan the QR code. They'd confirm the payment, and the payment would be approved or declined at that point. So one thing to remember, the customer's mobile device would require connectivity to data, either Wi-Fi or 4G LTE, in order to connect to the host and confirm that payment amount. So just to wrap up, I just want to touch on some of the advantages of a QR payment method. So first is simplicity, of course. Very simple to implement, to use, to deploy, to accept. Easy for merchants, easy for customers. We use it today in our stores as well as an offering to tap into this market. There's a lot less overhead in these models as well. So if you were to think back on the enterprise solutions, how you're hopping through multiple servers, you're going to data centers, you have redundancy in place, you have bank connectivity in place. So all of that gets pushed aside if you're going with a strictly QR or mobile payment method such as AliPay or WeChatPay. There's a lot of new functionality and usability that we see as well with these payment models in place. A good example I can think of is our SAC store downstairs, speaking with one of the store staff, she was mentioning how they get new stock in, and she would promote it to her client base by posting it on Instagram. Her client base would see items that they like, and they would message her back with their QR code, say, I like that item, I don't want to lose it. Here's my QR code, charge me for it, I'll pick it up when I have time. So something that we haven't really seen before in a traditional type of payment cycle, but something new that's up and coming with the ease and usability of this platform. And the other beauty would be the one central spot for reporting. So you're not jumping towards different banks, separate portals, having to run SQL queries to identify how much of a certain transaction have I done at a certain time. Everything would be captured real time and posted on a central portal. So I'd like to open up the floor to any questions anyone may have.
Just what's the difference or advantage depending with compared to Apple Pay, or does that fall into this bucket? Is it just about
Well, Apple Pay, yep. So good question about how it relates to Apple Pay or other mobile payment platforms. We see Apple Pay as an offering available primarily in North America and Europe as well. But based on the numbers that we've been seeing over the last few years, the QR flows are tenfold more in adoption when it comes to wallets such as Apple Pay or like Samsung Pay or anything like that. So it's really the market driving where it's going. So with the trends that we're seeing, it's a lot more acceptance on the QR flows opposed to the mobile wallet flows that we've seen today. More regional to Asia for the QR codes, but as per their expansion that they're doing, I mean, it's just more and more when it comes to acceptance overseas in different countries in Europe and North America. Because what they're realizing is there's an untapped market here. So if you're not supporting it, you're potentially losing revenue at that point because you're catering to high dollar value sales and you want to cater to their preferred payment methods, which in this case would be like WeChatPay or AliPay. Any other questions? Great, thank you.
So this is an interesting talk. This is the first time there was no serverless code shown. But it demonstrates the journey big companies have to go through towards those APIs they can code, and then also like a use case that we would know about if it wasn't without them. So I think in this room here in HBC, there is a homework. Somebody needs to write that payment API in OneTest or whatever cloud you choose for the next meetup. So. So it can be you or anybody here, and also a little front end. So it can be fun. You can make a hackathon here. So thank you for sharing the use case we didn't know existed. And so now we're moving to Alan. The next talk is not directly related to serverless, but because serverless can help startups the most, and they need to go in the cloud. There are ways about that only insiders like Alan would know about. So I'm really happy he decided to share this unofficial guide for starters. Let me find the slides when you introduce us.
Yeah, I did not even say that.
Well, that's true. The reason I selected this company to work with is thank you.
We'll wait for the slides to come up. I will preface it to say, this is serverless. You can do serverless outside of AWS. I'm just going to talk about that because that's what I do. So I'm going to go through here really quick. And there we go. Okay. So me, I've been using AWS for a while. I've been Director of Solution Architecture here in Toronto, Ontario. We're a consulting partner. We're probably the largest AWS-focused consulting partner in the world. I'm not going to give you too much of a speech about what we do at Omita. We help people use it. Some examples of the customers that we work with. Again, not necessarily specific. With serverless, lots of different architectures that we look at, but we definitely do have a focus on serverless. We have a practice dedicated to serverless applications. I'm hiring. Always love to throw those slides in. So if anybody's interested, I'm looking for solution architects and cloud engineers. I'm very particular about that. When I say I'm hiring that's for in Toronto. There's other roles in Toronto. We're also looking at hiring. So if anybody's interested in those, please come up, reach out to talk to me. Love to talk about what it's like working on it. Okay, let's get started talking about the stuff on AWS. So I want to focus on just talking about some ways to look at serverless on AWS. This is a really cool. Like AWS started a while ago. They came out with the release of Lambda, reInvent. I was sitting there in Vegas and like my mind was just blown, right? Like it's a lot of cool different ways of thinking about stuff. And practicality, it's awesome, right? Like here's a really simple node and a few building blocks to go look at, and I can do some really cool things. So when you start thinking about it, yeah, this starts making sense. And then you get to your first hackathon, And this is kind of what it looks like. Whole piles of different blocks of things that you could do. It gets to be a little bit overwhelming on some stuff. Again, it's worth going through down this road, but it takes a little bit of steps. So I want to just talk about some things to help get you started. So Daniel talked about this being a guide for startups, but startups can be a lot of different things. That could be a new company starting up and trying to go through and get a new disruptive technology in place. This could also be in large enterprise organizations, a new business unit, or a Skunkworks project, or a hackathon. How do you start getting to use this stuff if you've never used this before? Those kind of all those cases. So getting started. So if you're new to AWS, it is super overwhelming for all the different things that you can do. I don't even know how long it takes to become a master of all the services. There's over 100 services that they have. Once you get caught up, you're already out of date on everything else. So it's what happens. So these are the places to start. First, really cool place to look at stuff if you just want to get your hands dirty, try stuff out. Quick Labs. Free. You don't need to give them a bunch of your personal information to be hassled by salespeople. You can just go through some introductory things, spend half an hour here, trying out a service, see what stuff is like. Next one's really good is YouTube. So there's a lot of videos they have on YouTube that you can subscribe to. One of the things we'll talk about in a minute is about a conference they have called reInvent. Tons of different services are announced there. They do a bunch of talks about how to use the services. And what's really cool about some of the talks they do is it's not just about the technology, it's about how to use it. Business problems that are solved by it. So it's kind of a way to look at not just how does the tech work. You can go to user documentation, that's how the tech works. Ways to use it and the problems that tech solves is also useful. Take a look on YouTube. They've got some good, subscribe to it. They've got playlists. So there's a serverless playlist. I think there were 34 serverless talks or something like that. So take a look at those. Immersion training. So AWS, like all companies that want to do demos on stuff, will come and demo AWS to you. So if you've got, you're starting up and you don't know where to begin and you just kind of want to understand the fundamental place, you can actually talk to an account representative. They can arrange either through AWS or through partners. We'll do immersion training. Immersion training is typically they come out for a day. They will talk to you about some topics. So, here's an introduction to AWS. Here's how to do serverless. Here's how to do data lakes. Whatever that may be. They'll work with you in the content, come out, do a one-day workshop with you, just to help get you caught up to speed on the terminology and on that path to start with. Last one here is quick starts. So AWS has all these templates to go through and just spin up stuff. So if you want to spin up a WordPress stack, there's a quick start, you go there, you click it, and 5 minutes later, boom, you got WordPress. They have lots and lots of different architecture patterns. It's really easy to start playing with applications from these quick starts. Generally speaking, the quick starts are covered under what they call free tier. So you spin up a new account, you get access to some free resources. You can run so many Lambda transactions without charge. You can run small virtual machines in AWS without charge. There's a lot of details I could go into about what that looks like. Just go and search Google AWS free tier. You'll figure it out. Okay, so you got some stuff to look at from resources on getting started. So now that you've kind of gone, figured out, where do I need to learn? Where can I find some stuff? How do I get going from there? So this is where it's good to be, figure out a community or a support system if you're trying to keep up to date and need some mental help with that. So webinars, lots of great events and webinars they have. So they'll have different people from the partner ecosystem, AWS product teams, lots of different people will go and have webinars and they share that information out. You can register, they're all free, and you'll spend an hour, 45 minutes. They've got some Q&As and stuff like that. If you're live, they usually, if you register for them, they'll send you the recorded copy as well. Toronto Summit. So they started Toronto Summit. So I thought I'd throw that out here. Last year was the first one. There'll be another one again this year. Probably September. So it's, AWS comes out. It's a the conference to come on and join and learn about different ways to use the technology and get together and find out what's the current state of things and connect with people. It's a pretty good event. reInvent. reInvent is the big conference that they have every year. So I believe it's December 2nd this year. They will spend a bunch of time releasing a whole pile of new things, which makes me lose sleep for a few days, which is not good after a conference in Vegas to begin with. But it's probably one of the best conferences that I've gone to. It's a conference, of learning. So it's a lot of developers will showcase code. They will do demos. They will talk about customer use cases. There's chats to go through and fireside chats talking about architecture. This is probably one of the best conferences I'd recommend going to, including stuff like boot camps. If you're interested in going, and it's August, you're probably late. You're missing out on a bunch of stuff. Registration starts opening, and seriously, if you want to see a good use case of scaling technology, look at the registration for this. I think in about 90 seconds or so this year's or the last year's registration, I started getting the timeout errors because there are 60,000 people trying to go through and click around and register for things. Once that registration date opened up, you'd think that they would be a little better at the scaling on some of it, but it's a hard problem to get right. You get once a year, you get to innovate. So, really worth conference if you ever look. Although the YouTube playlist will have some of those sessions, there's lots of great value. Toronto Meetup. So again, fair warning, it's a meetup that we run at Onica, but it's a good one to learn more about any kind of topic related to AWS. And the last one is AWS blogs. They have lots of cool blogs. There's a serverless blog, there's an AI ML blog, there's network, all different types of blogs. So you can kind of not just see all the new stuff going on, but have content-specific blogs. Okay, so you've got some learning, you figure out how to start learning it, you're joining the community, you want to start building and designing. You've got the ideas of what the services are, you feel supported, you've had a chance to learn about different things, so now you're ready to start designing and building. So a couple things to look at. The well-architected framework. So this is a framework AWS has put in place. There's a bunch of different pillars of things to look at. Cost optimization, security, all of these kind of things they want to recommend you look at. There's a PDF for it. It goes through lots of details. There's lots of PDFs actually about them. It's basically the best practices for architecture. And I'll share these links on these slides. One of them specifically has a focus on how to do that with serverless. It's important, AWS wants you to use their services and they want you to be really cost effective. It's crazy. I think they've had about something like 53 price reductions. I feel that number is going to be wrong, but they want you to go through and spend less money, which is a weird strategy, but seems to work. To give you some examples of experience that I've had a customer I was working with a long time ago, and they had been using AWS for a year. We've been doing some managed services with them, and the cost of the storage was actually dropping faster than the rate that they could add storage to their solution. So, we renewed the contract with them for 3 years and never had to change any pricing because it just got cheaper and cheaper as they added more and more. AWS will not only keep dropping these price reductions back to people, they actually have teams of people who reach out to you and be, hey, you guys are spending a lot of money on this. I don't think you're using this thing. So there's better ways to do it. Let's figure out how to make that cheaper for you. That's a weird thing to pay people for. But it works, right? Last one is architecture center. So there's lots of great architecture patterns. If you're new to AWS, you want to build something, design something, don't start from scratch. Come take a look at either those quick starts we talked about before. There's also some architecture diagrams. Look at some of the best practices. There's e-commerce solutions, there's serverless solutions. Not everything is perfect and not everything will fit your use case, but just to inspire you to look at designs and different ways of thinking. One of the big things about serverless that I think is really cool is not just the technology, it's a different way to think about things. Instead of a giant monolithic application that's, I need to scale out buying lots of expensive hardware, I can think about, maybe I can change the way I do things. Maybe I can have an event-driven application instead of, something sitting there idle all the time. Who loves to have the box that runs month-end reporting that gets used for 5 hours a month, but you pay for this monster machine sitting there all month long? That's crazy. You can start thinking about different ways to, use serverless to parallelize work. If it costs, if I have a function and I run it, and it takes 20 seconds to perform something, I can run that, serially, that job, and run 10,000 of those, or I can start running a few thousand of those jobs in parallel. It's going to cost me the same for my Lambda function to run and paying for execution time. So why am I running it serially when I can start parallelizing? I can get faster results, more real time for the same cost. So different ways to think about those things. Those are really interesting way to start looking at the architecture patterns. Don't go alone. So this is a good one for everybody. Again, I'm biased because I'm from a consulting partner, but I suggest you use it. So here's why. When you're starting out as a startup company, you've got a lot of stuff to do. You're building a business. You can start trying to learn, fail, iterate, get better. I'm a big fan of learning from failure, but you might have a lot of other stuff on the go at that point. So maybe kind of getting bootstrapping on that learning, get some references in place, start building your solution, get off on the right track. And then as you feel more comfortable, have seen the best practices, you know how to start leveraging them to expand, continue to grow and innovate. If you're a larger enterprise organization starting out, you probably have a group of people who have a day job. It's not easy to learn all of this stuff when you have a day job that doesn't include this as part of your day job. It will help you get faster value by just having some people who've done this before educate you, help you build references, and continue to grow out. So I'm a really big fan about trying to get help to do that. So there's a link here for AWS partners in Canada. I'm biased again, with Annika being one, so please reach out to us. But there's other people out there. So one of the things that you can do with it, you reach out to a partner. You can talk to them about a few different things. How do I strategically build things? We've got experience helping large enterprises migrate. We have experiences with small startup companies. So not just the problems of how do I build this application? Where do I start? How do I strategically plan this out? What business problems do I want to solve? How can I solve those things? Those are important things that having a partner will help you with, because they're going to have experience, see what has worked for other people, and give you some recommendations around that. So once you've got that vision in place, you're ready to start working, you've got your serverless app figured out. I've got this microservice architecture I'm going to go build. I want it to do these things. I want it to scale well. How do I start doing that? So that's where partners can also help with you getting deep into the technology and building solutions with you and for you. So when you're a startup, money is not always available and to be thrown around without proper use case. So one of the things that partners can also do is help you with getting funding. So AWS has funding programs. I highly encourage you just talk with your AWS rep or your partners to figure out how to get funding. So as a partner organization, we work with AWS very closely. AWS has money to help you get onto AWS. It's that free trial period kind of idea, right? Come on our service, get used to it, love it, and then you're addicted. So what they want to go through and do with that is they'll give you money, and that could be money towards using to pay a consulting partner to help you build something. That could be money for credits to run your stuff on AWS. Those are both great ways to start leveraging, the advantage of AWS to start getting there faster and to start innovating faster. So when I don't want to go into too deep into the mechanics of how they do all their funding. They've got lots of different funding programs depending on what you do. But essentially, you probably look at a 10-to-1 ratio is kind of what they would look for. So if you're building an application and going back to that well-architected document that I talked about, they're going to make sure that if they're giving you money, they want you to do it right. They want you to succeed. you're going to become a bigger adopter of their services the more you succeed. You're also a better story for them to share with other people to get more people on there. So they want you to do it right. It's important for them. So to get funding, that well-architected piece needs to be there. So you need to have proper designs. And then you need to figure out how much money they will give you. So this 10-to-1 ratio will kind of give you, if you think about, this is my application, what is it going to look like a year from now? So you need to start figuring out, how's my business going to grow? What does it look like? How am I going to, what's the adoption rate going to look like? So you think about that, you're probably going to do some budgeting around it, and you're going to figure out, okay, 12 months from now, this is what it's going to look like. And estimates are never right, so you're going to do a range. This is kind of my low, this is my high, this is my expected. So this is the unofficial version. When you talk to AWS about it, maybe go with that high number, because they're going to look at whatever that number is, and that's what you're expected you're going to spend. So they're going to figure out, we're going to have APIs. I'm going to do 6 million transactions. I think it's going to cost us this much per transaction. This is what the spend, 12 months in is going to look like on AWS. So they're going to say, okay, great, that's our annual spend. What's 10% of that? Let's give you, that's an easy way to start getting money to start funding these proof of concepts. So I mean, you want to be realistic about it, but if you're going to go on the side, it's important to figure out the upside. Optimistically, this is what we want to spend. We'll get you more funding around that. Partners will help you with kind of doing some of the calculations. If you ever try to price out an app on that you've never run before, it's not possible. It's crazy. Like, how much network bandwidth is this app that I haven't even designed yet going to take up? What is the security cost implications look like? There's a lot of different costs that go into it. Partners will be able to help with coming up with some of that information as well, and experiences of similar applications. So it's going to help you figure out what that story is. Go to AWS and we'll help get funding for you. So you've got that proof of concept. You've got that application. You've worked with a partner. They've got some funding to help cover the costs on it. The application, you'll build it, you like it, and then you're ready to start moving and building. There's other funding programs available for that as well. This doesn't just have to be new programs that you're working on. If you've got a large application and you decide, this was really great, this Windows application, it was written in Java 9 years ago, and it is giant monolith. There's some ways to start breaking down. You want to go down that road of, let's go and make some microservices and let's make some event-driven applications. There's some funding available as well for migrations. So we can, talking to a partner is going to help you figure out, they should help you figure out not just how to move things, but also how to innovate things and transform what your applications look like. So, you can take something, I've got a server closet with VMware running, and I've got some servers there. Sure, you can move that VM to AWS. You can run that, but you're not going to get as much out of it as if you say, I can actually break this application apart. I'm going to start using serverless, and all of a sudden I have all that operational overhead that I was paying to make sure that my stuff is getting patched and make sure that that hardware is not failing. And I've got to have this guy on call to go and reset network, cards that burn out. I've got to have him basically sleeping there beside it with a box of network cards because this is a mission critical application. You start, going through faster. So again, I'm just calling out a few services here. If you are new to AWS, some things to think about. Not everything is serverless that will help you. You can start looking at other things. If you want to register a domain, if you're a new startup, you want to go through and set up a quick, dirty web page. It's super cheap. You can run it off S3. Code commit's a great way to start storing your code securely. You can have a directory service for sign-on. You can use workspaces or Cloud9 instead of buying high-priced laptops for all of your developers. You can use Chromebooks so they use their own devices and start going through and have remoting into secure environments that you can control. That's it. Hopefully that was useful.
Thank you. Maybe So one or two questions now. I recommend after we are done with the last presenter, you ask our question. This is tip of the iceberg of the things he knows he can tell you. So this is just the beginning. Any questions? One question now. No? Yes. Okay.
I just kind of had a comment in terms of the funding. It's super helpful to use the credits that are available, and like we at Triple use GCP, so there's kind of on both ends. There's amazing credits, and especially if you're part of an incubator here in Toronto, you can go into whoever runs it. They can get in touch with AWS and get those credits or GCP. So we took a lot of advantage of it, and they also can support you in a couple of years. So you would get like 5 credits for the first year and then 25 for the next year. It's really awesome. Sorry, done.
Anybody else wants to? What?
So far, what kind of mission critical services or platform AWS can support? Like,
I think it's quite a long question. We have to be half an hour to do. So asking that offline.
Oh, okay. Everything. We talk about it. As long as I'm mainframe.
I'm sorry, like we've asked to finish by 8:30. So we have last but not the least. There is this word gemstack that keeps popping around the internet, and who else but Netlify? So Bhavana,
Yeah. Hi everybody. I know I stand between you and food and drink. So I'm trying to keep this as quick as possible. So I work for a company called Netlify, and I heard that some of you are interested in knowing more about it. But I just moved to Canada, like I said, it's been 1 week. And I work as a solutions engineer. Netlify is a startup based out of San Francisco. That's where I was for the last 6 years. And then I just moved here, and I'm going to be working remotely for this company. So Netlify, for those who don't know, it lets you build and host websites really easy. Seems like why is there a company doing something like this? But it does have some cool stuff. So I'm going to be talking about this bigger movement called the Jamstack. And so I'm going to be talking more about it in next month's meetup. This is just like a pre-phase to get you guys excited and hopefully see you next. Cool. Cool. How many of you here have heard about the Jamstack? Okay, cool. So what I'm going to talk about is what this movement is about. It's just a new way of building websites. There's been a traditional way of building monolithic apps. I can never pronounce that word properly. Monolithic, whatever. There's been a new way. There's a new way of building these kind of websites, and that's what I'm going to talk about. Like the only thing I heard about in Netlify after I joined that is that, and so I thought it's time to spread this to the East Coast. And so specifically in terms of serverless is like, you all know what serverless is. Like you're running code in someone else's server machine somewhere in the cloud, but now we're going to extend this to static websites. And when I say static, it doesn't mean, don't think of like the brochure websites of 1990 or something like that. It's any kind of big e-commerce or marketing or documentation, landing pages, any kind of website, but just static means that it's pre-built at deploy time. I'll get more into this, but I'm just going to break it down. So I'll take you through this journey. Back in 2015, when I had a quarter-life crisis, I was like, okay, I think I'm going to start blogging. And I wanted to create a website. I didn't intend to share it with too many people because it was more of a personal project, just journaling things that have been happening at work, happening at, personally. And so I was like, okay, I want to spend effort on this, but I don't want to spend too much effort on it. What's the easiest way to put a website up? I'll use WordPress. And so I was like, okay, I'll put a few pictures up. I write a few blogs. I tag it. There's comments there. I sign up for domains. And blog is up. I don't share it with too many people, but what I realized that is, the way something like a WordPress works is for every request, every time someone goes to www.xyz.com through your browser, that's when the site is built.
right? So then you go to the database, you pull out the content, you go, you build that HTML page at that point, and you provide it to the end client again. So every time someone makes that request, of course, there's caching and things like that to make this smart, but every time you make that request, you're served that website. And of course, with WordPress, so I had to pay for all of this. There's not too many people. So I was like, what am I doing? I'm paying so much money for a site that not too many people are reading. And the best part was I got ads on my website. So it's like the 3 people who are reading my site, like my then boyfriend, my friends, they're like, you know what? The ads are more interesting than your blogs themselves. So yeah, so I got all these ads and I was like, okay, I didn't think too much about it. After 1 year, you know, that enthusiasm, that hobby fades away. I was like, okay, my blog is up. It's there. I'll add a blog here or something. And then fast forward. Oh, yeah. Fast forward to August 2018. I joined Netlify. I heard about this new movement called the Jamstack. For those of you who don't know, the Jamstack, the Jam part stands for JavaScript, APIs, and markup. All this is saying is that you can use for any kind of request response that happens in the client, you just use client-side JavaScript. So it can be a vanilla JavaScript, it can be an Angular framework, it can be React, whatever it is that you use for your front end of your application. And then there's APIs, which all of you are familiar with. Use APIs and serverless technology for any kind of more crazy things that you want to do, like authorization, authentication, payment. Maybe you want to post something to a database, you want to pull something from a database. You use APIs to do that. Someone's already done it for you. Just use those APIs. Or if you have like some kind of microservice that you yourself have, you backend that you've built yourself and hosting on, say, Heroku or wherever you want to, pull it from that. So you might notice that I move my hand a lot, but don't get distracted. And then there's markups. Like what we're saying is pre-build all of your site pages during deploy and use something like a static site generator. Might be a new term for some of you, but it's basically saying that anything that can be pre-built, pre-build it as static files and put it into the CDN. So this is what the Jamstack stands for. But how does this translate to a website? Is as shown here. So you write a website code, you use a static site generator. Static site generator is just building your your content into, like putting it into templates, creating this kind of static HTML. And then you all must have heard of CDNs, Akamai, Fastly, all of these CDNs. So traditionally, you know them as storing any kind of like images or things that don't change too often. But we're saying that you can now build your site, put it on a CDN. So when now someone requests for that site, all you're doing is pulling up a page from the CDN. So there's no like that site building that happens every time someone makes a request, just pulling out a page that's already on the CDN. And then you can always connect to all these other third-party services. And also, there's always a case like not everyone's used to GitHub or any kind of Git service, right? So some people always put in content to a CMS, like how WordPress provides it or how Wix does it. There's a UI editor for non-technical folks. And so you can also connect to like a Contentful. There's this whole movement called headless CMS happening where you use the CMS just to pull out content. So this is what the Jamstack enables. You pre-building these sites, putting them on a CDN. So when someone asks for it, you just pull it out from there. So to compare to, I don't know, it's probably too small, but the left side is the traditional workflow and the right side is like a Jamstack workflow. And it's so small even on the screen, I don't know how you're seeing it. But basically in the traditional workflow, like I said, you build your website, you put it on a server, it's running somewhere. And every time you want changes to that, you FTP into that server, you add more files into it, and then it's available as an HTML file it's built when you request for it. Whereas for Jamstack, you're pre-building it, putting it as HTML files before, and it's served as HTML files after when you ask for it. I have to talk about where Netlify fits in, so I just put in one slide. So basically, what Netlify does is it makes this build and hosting part easy. So it says, okay, you've used Angular, you've used React, or you've used some kind of static CMS, a static site generator. Now we'll build that site for you, and we have like a workflow, like a CI/CD pipeline set up from building it up to putting it on our CDN, and that's what Netlify does. And then I have to be a little fair and add competitors in really small font. So there's also like you don't have to like the Jamstack is all about using it's technology agnostic. You can use GitHub Pages to host your website. You can use S3 to put your sites on it, or you can put this on Google, wherever you want to. Netlify has its own CDN, but you can put on any CDN. You use any CMS, you use any static site generator, but it just brings it all together. I think it's an interesting analogy. Think of a peanut butter sandwich. There's peanut butter jelly sandwich. There's peanut butter and there's jelly and there's bread, right? Putting together is the website. So when you have peanut butter separately and the jelly separately, you can put how much ever you want, and then you have this nice website. Whereas imagine if people sold peanut butter and jelly in one box. Like that's not cool. It doesn't look good. You don't get to choose how much peanut butter and how much jelly you want. And so that's a Jamstack. It's enabling you to decouple front end and back end and all this content so that the end product is still a website, but how you access it and how you build it is different from the previous one. And so why would someone want to do this? It's because obviously, think of it, like you're not building the site every time someone requests for it, right? So it's your speed of site increases. If speed of site increases, like, for retail companies, you make more money, every second, microsecond counts, all that. And then there's a performance boost, and there's almost no DevOps, right? Like someone else is managing your CDN, that auto scales by itself, and then all that happens automatically for you. And it makes the front-end developer really powerful because now you don't have to depend on a DevOps engineer to set up these environments for you. Like it's all through this Git workflow. That's very easy. It might all sound a little alien now. It'll make more sense in my next talk, in the next meetup, where I'll go into detail about what it does. And the best part is there's no ads. I don't know if you know that. Yeah. There's no ads on these sites because it's all what you do. Anyway, so it's not like, this is only meant for your personal blogs or your personal projects. This could be big sites too. So I just spoke to Nike today, who's like, yeah, we started this whole we got on this Jamstack movement 4 years ago. We have our own Nike CMS. All our sites are static. And again, static doesn't mean that it's not powerful at all, right? Like Nike has like e-commerce and it has all these digital retail experiences that they're doing. And all this is served through a CDN. And so like Adidas, like Serverless's website is serverless static site. And Smashing Magazine, I don't know, like front-end developers know this well. It's an e-commerce as well as it's a website for web developers and web designers. They are massive. There's comments, there's e-commerce, there's a bunch of different dynamic services as well that happens, but it's a static site on a CDN. And so a lot of people are moving towards this. There's a lot of excitement around Jamstack, and it comes with its own benefits. Like, so you're breaking down this huge monolithic application to a small, like decoupled services. And so next month I'll go into more detail, but this is also if you want to just whet your appetite, there's some resources here, what the Jamstack is, what the best practices around it are, and then also like what is all these things that I said, this static site generators, and StackBit is actually really, really interesting. That last link that I put, it basically says, oh, pick your CMS, pick your static site generator, pick your front-end framework, and they build that site for you. They create that stack for you, and you can start building your site. So, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions? Okay, so to be continued next month. So,
oh, he had a question.
You have a question? Yes. Okay. So, what is the question?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So Hugo's the question was, what makes this different from Hugo? By this, do you mean Jamstack or Netlify? Okay. So Hugo is a static site generator, right? So if you have your files or anything, Hugo is what will build it and create that HTML. Netlify takes that built site and puts it on the CDN. So Netlify, it works with Hugo, not a competition to Hugo. Yeah, so Hugo, Gatsby, 11T, whichever. Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Anything else? Any more? So this topic is going to continue next month. So first, I want to thank you for showing up today. There were 75 people. HBC was counting. This is the first time we had 4 presenters. Like, it went a little bit longer than anticipated, so we have to shorten the networking time, because normally we have half an hour to an hour to mingle. Now we have drink and pizza, but we have to be out of here in 20 minutes. So be quick, fire the questions. And I hope to see, so there was one more question. I was asked before you leave, we have to do the draw for the mailing, but I was also asked how to reach a Slack channel. So it's I created subdomain slack.serverlesstoronto.org. We'll give you invite to Slack, and then in there we're going to have discussion what topics you want to see next. I was going off Joe Emerson's list one off and looking at the companies that he worked with before. I know I want to see you again with Amplify. And we'll need volunteers. So slack.serverlesstoronto.org. Now, let's see who's the lucky winner. I've lied, so if you can leave me alone. So, oops. So let's see. The number is 54082526. Who is the winner? Okay, congrats. So we're gonna connect. Thank you. So business card. Business card. So that's it. You can start. Actually, can you stay here? So we'll arrange. Which one do you want? Which one do you want? Do you know which one do you want? You don't. Okay, so I'll open the slides again for you. And you guys enjoy. Thank you for coming. I hope to see you next month. It's all green my planet. Hang on a second. My friend, I don't have good luck on this. I never won nothing. So you want to answer? You want to answer? Are you interested? So you're not interested, you can give us. Can I see the? Yep. Okay, so these are the titles. You can see them here. Think what you like to do.